Y'all put that in the way, that little table, it goes back in the back.
Okay, my name is Daniel Bowles. I'm with the Walkertown Area Historical Society. I'm the Vice President and the Archives Chairman. I lived in Walkertown for most of my life. I lived down in Morehead City after high school. But Walkertown's always been my home for 30 years. My family has lived in Walkertown since at least early 1770s. Now, most of the people that lived in Walkertown during that time were contracted by the Moravians to build mills along creeks that they scouted out as they were coming down the Great Wagon Road. As the Moravians were moving down from Pennsylvania,
Excuse me, let me move it.
they spotted creeks along the way to their destination. First being in Bethabara. Two brothers in 1750s moved to Bethabara to set up a settlement there in hopes of returning back to Pennsylvania and bringing more people down. Then later on, other settlements started popping up, Freeland and Bethania, and you had Bethabara there. And then in 1765, the first house was built in Salem. Now there's a lot of influential people that have lived in Walkertown throughout the years. Starting with the Revolutionary War, well, actually before that, we have a person by the name of Robert Walker, Esquire. He received a grant from the Moravians to set up a settlement, which is now right outside of Walkertown. Between Walkertown and Kernersville. I've been working with a gentleman by the name of John Coffey, and he has done a lot of genealogical research on Robert Walker, which is his direct descendant. Robert Walker was an esquire, which is not quite a lawyer, but someone that could maintain court and conduct business. Before the counties were separated in the early 1700s, the only incorporated areas in North Carolina were along the coast. 1740s, you had New Bern and some of the settlements there. As they pushed westward, they couldn't get past a lot of the Native Americans that had settled in the Piedmont region of North Carolina. So, as the Moravians were pushing further south into North Carolina, they figured they could get around some of the Indians that were settling in the eastern part of the state. Here recently, we've come across Spanish settlements in Morganton, and I believe the late 1500s. Spanish settlers from Florida had made its way up to Morganton in the 1500s and set up an outpost. Well, it was quickly attacked by the Native Americans in that area, and most of the soldiers, except for one or two, were actually killed. So there's only one or two people that made it back alive to tell the story about it. So ever since then, any kind of explorer, settler had always heard that there were hostile Native Americans in the area. If you go to Bethabara Park, they've got a palisade, a fort built there to protect the settlers against the Native Americans. But as more and more people came to North Carolina, a lot of the Native Americans had to move out because of disease was spreading from the European settlers. making it hard for them to live in the area that they had lived for, almost 1,000 years. Now, Robert Walker Esquire, let me see if I can pull this up here. Robert Walker Esquire conducted court in Rowan County. Rowan County included this whole area. He was one of the first to suggest breaking up Rowan County into Surry County. And when they did that, they formed, I don't know if it's on this back map, but Surry County's seat in 1780 was Old Richmond Courthouse, which is in the northwest part of Forsyth County. And from there, he had a house where he would travel back and forth from Walkertown to Old Richmond. Now, this is the beginning. This is pre-Revolutionary War. And after Robert Walker Esquire helped establish the new county, Surry County, he also helped establish a band of regulators. The War of the Regulators was a particular battle that happened in Alamance County. The Regulators were a group of farmers in this area that were upset over not just the taxes per se, but the representation. A lot of them didn't have a problem with paying the taxes. They felt that they were represented wrongfully in a lot of the court. And so you had a lot of government officials here in North Carolina that were pro-Britain, pro-taxes, and then you had a split between those and the what we would call patriots during the Revolutionary War. Now, after the battle in Alamance County, they captured a couple of the regulators and hanged them there. But a lot of them made it out of the area and spread out west, and some of them settling in the Walkertown region. Some of my family, the Jones family, the Van Hoyens, the Wagners, the Meekums, the Pegrams, all were regulators, in which was the kind of the precursor to the Revolutionary War. And as soon as the war kind of started, you had a lot of these British loyalists turned patriots, and a lot of them split, continued to be loyalists and fight for the crown. And that's where you kind of come across a really big battle of North Carolina, which was the Battle of Kings Mountain. Battle of Kings Mountain was the patriots of this area against, they were not British, but they were colonial loyalists. And an Irish general by the name of Ferguson had started in South Carolina and was making his way through North Carolina to gather troops to fight the patriots here in North Carolina. Now, some of my family members and some of the most influential people of the Revolutionary War were part of this particular battle. You've got, has anybody heard of Light Horse Lee? General Light Horse Lee was Robert E. Lee's father. And he was one of the most influential generals of that battle. You also had, at that time, I think he was just promoted Major Joseph Winston. Joseph Winston, which is what Winston is named after. He was actually the commanding officer of my seventh great-grandfather, Benjamin Jones. He was a lieutenant under Major Joseph Winston. They met what they would call the Over Mountain Men, which were frontiersmen that had heard that Ferguson was coming through trying to recruit a lot of loyalists. So they met in Elkin. A lot of the Over Mountain Men had come from the mountains, from trapping and trading what they were used to, and met Major General Campbell, Light Horse Lee, and a few other officers in Elkin. And from there they staged the march, which kind of runs along the backbone of the Appalachian Trail and into Rome Mountain, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, that area right there. Then they came further south to have the Battle of the Kings Mountain. That battle was between, like I said, General Ferguson and the Patriots of North Carolina and some of the Over Mountain men. It was a pretty decisive battle for North Carolina, especially for the Patriots, because if they had not won that battle, there would have been so much more people that would have probably been joining or recruited by the Loyalists at that time. After the battle, Major Joseph Winston had returned to Surry County. That's where Robert Walker comes back into play, because he was the esquire out there and actually had a house. And conducting business with the generals, making sure that they had all the provisions that they needed, horses and everything like that. Now you get further down the road, March 15th, which is not too long ago, but in 1781, I believe, the Guilford Courthouse battle. Now, the key players in that was Major General Nathaniel Greene. This is right after his race to the Dan that he outran and finally crossed the river to come back down to Guilford Courthouse. From Guilford Courthouse, you had several militias staged there, which is Major Joseph Winston and a lot of other generals that were in the Battle of Kings Mountain up there as well. Now, Walkertown has been said that it was named after Robert Walker Esquire, which is not too entirely true, but maybe for the whole family, the Walker family itself. So it could be said that, Robert Walker Esquire, for his good deeds during the Revolutionary War, had made a name, and to a point where eventually they call it Walkertown. But through research and, I do a lot of genealogical research, and so some of the people that we've researched with the Walkertown Area Historical Society, they have said that since there's large numbers of their family, they've come up with towns. You had Walkertown. Walkertown was a large group of walkers. The first one being Robert Walker Esquire. He received a grant to open up an inn in Walkertown. And the inn was pretty much a stopping point along the Great Wagon Road. And I've come across other families, notable families of Walkertown, the Morrises. the sales on the outside of Walkertown. And they've all claimed to have their own little towns: Saletown, Morristown, Walkertown. So it's probably more along the lines that the town was named after the family of Walkers than Robert Walker Esquire. Now, after the battle of the Guilford Courthouse, a lot of the soldiers that were mainly from Virginia ended up settling in North Carolina. My family, originally from Wales, and moved to Pennsylvania, and then Pennsylvania to Virginia, and then Virginia to North Carolina. After my sixth great grandfather fought Battle of Kings Mountain and marched all over North Carolina and fought the Battle of Guilford Courthouse and all up and down the Dana River, I think he figured he'd like to live here. So he ended up moving to Walkertown right off the Blues Creek. And he worked at a place called Troublesome Ironworks, which was another prominent place for the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, because a lot of the soldiers that were retreating from the battlefield ended up going to Troublesome Creek and the Troublesome Ironworks. Now, Walkertown wasn't incorporated until 1985. So, as far as a town, we've got a lot of history, but we've just started as a town. So, you've got several families that have lived in Walkertown: the Sullivans, the Crews, the Lights, the Moores. At one time, Walkertown, late 1800s to the early 1900s, a particular road in Walkertown, Sullivan County Road, was called Millionaire's Road because of the large group of tobacco farmers that made it real big before R.J. Reynolds bought them out. So you've got a small little town that started with Robert Walker Esquire getting a grant from the Moravians, and then it becoming what it is today. And throughout the years, I mean, we've had, tons of things happen in this area. That's, you've got the battles, Revolutionary War battles. You've got Civil War. There's a lot of Civil War activity up and down this particular area between Virginia and Salem. And after the Civil War, I've even come across a lot of Walkertown people that were in the Battle of, not the Battle, but the War of 1812. So there's been this, continuation of military service in Walkertown for several hundred years. I could touch a little bit on this. This is, like I said, Robert Walker Esquire got his permit to run an inn. And at that time, that was where he received your mail, your news. You could go there and have a hot meal, or you could just catch up on the gossip. Now, the official post office, I believe, opened in the 1850s, was called the Columbia Inn, and it was run by Moses Morris. And here's some of the records for that. And over here, we have kind of how our town has changed over the years. There's a picture of Robert Walker Esquire's son's house, which was built in 1824. And there's been a lot of debate on whether Robert Walker Esquire lived there or not. And that's where a lot of people said that that was the first house built in Walkertown. But we found other houses that are a lot older than that. Walkertown has always been a farming community, but we're always big on education. There's a picture of our first public schoolhouse pretty large building for Walkertown at the time. And then when that was tore down, you had the public schoolhouse built in 1924, which was a large brick building that was off Main Street. So a community built by farmers, but educated in the best way that North Carolina could at the time. Now, there's a lot of speculation on Robert Walker, where his homestead was. And it's throughout the years you've had several historians talk about who Robert Walker was, who his family was. And it's always come up, how did Walkertown get its name? But Robert Walker Esquire, whether he lived directly in Walkertown or not, helped change North Carolina for the better. And I think Walkertown as well. So if it wasn't for him and his family, I think Walkertown would have been what it is today. I don't know how I am going to talk, but I could talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that we do at the Walkertown Area Historical Society. It was started less than 10 years ago by a group of people that love history just like we all do. And they saw the potential for a historical society with so much history in Walkertown that it needed to be preserved. And that's our mission, is to preserve history. What we do is we set up meetings at our public library, and we try to reach out to other local groups to see if we can make people more aware of what Walkertown is, a little town right up the road. But we've got just as rich of a history as everybody else. What we do is we do books. We try to put a good display of types of historical things that you would see or have heard of in Walkertown. We've got this book. We've got a book on our high school. Like I said, Walkertown's kind of prided itself on its public education all the way up till present day. And so there was a lot of history that went along with that book, and we felt that it needed to be told. There were so many alumni of Walkertown High School. The first high school closed down in 1962, so there's still a lot of alumni here in Walkertown and probably around the U.S., because not everybody stays. But there's been so many people that have bought our book and opened it up, and to remember all the fond memories of Walkertown High School. And we like to reach out with other organizations, churches. Just about every church has a good cookbook to sell, so we like to get in with them and sell their cookbooks and try to raise awareness of our group. Like I said, we have meetings at our public library. We try to have a good variety of things for people to come and learn about, ranging from we had a lecture on regenerative medicine from Wake Forest Baptist Medical. So it's not always historical, but it's very informative. The next meeting we have is next week, and that'll be on race and education in North Carolina. John E. Batchelor, retired from North Carolina school system, will be the speaker for that evening. And what we try to do is have a meeting every other month, and we try to draw a pretty good crowd. We've got other projects that we're working on. We have teamed up with the Slave Dwelling Project, which is a group based out of South Carolina. Joseph McGill is the head of that group. What he does is travels all over the U.S., all up and down the East Coast, and he tries to present the public with what slave life was like back during the pre-Civil War and during the Civil War. And what he'll do is he'll reach out to schools and get those people involved, and he'll get other local groups like us, the Walkertown Area Historical Society, involved too. So in May 5th and 6th, we're having a slave loan project come in, and the first part will be at the Walkertown High School, and then the second part will be at Mount Pleasant, a church that will be helping us out and hosting a banquet, and a couple of award-winning choirs will be singing at Mount Pleasant Church. That night, Joseph McGill, Brittany Anderson, which is direct descendant of Thomas Jefferson, will be coming and staying, and hopefully a cave that we have heard about. We haven't found it yet, but we've heard about this cave from so many different people, and it's in journals from the 1800s, that this particular cave was used by the Red Strings. The Red Strings was I won't really call them pro-unionist, but they were definitely anti-Confederate. They did not like slavery, and they did not like the secession of the South from the Union. And so what they would do is they would help out deserters from the Confederacy and runaway slaves and hide them away in various spots along the Underground Railroad. And so hopefully we find this cave, and Joseph McGill and Brittany Anderson and the vice principal and a few others will be able to stay overnight at this cave, where so many people have, found safe haven in this area. So it's going to be exciting, a few months for Walkertown, and hopefully, we can raise awareness of, this small little town that's got a lot of history to it. So,
That's great.
yeah. No, that's it.
Thanks, y'all coming and bringing your other people with you. And I was thinking about walkers. There's a lot of walkers that, like my church, I've never thought about the name Walker in Walkertown. I reckon I just connected too much. It's just,
There's a lot of walkers that have left, yeah.
Kerner was a Joseph Kerner. We're named the Joseph Kerner. Again, this community. People love this community. Greensboro. When you start putting it down like that, but it's really interesting. I didn't know that it incorporated in 1985.
Yeah.
That's what was it before that?
It was just it was considered a stop on the waste management sites.
Well, yeah.
Community.
Community. It was a small township.
Walkertown, but I just,
unincorporated.
yeah.
But as far as government,
Successful there.
we didn't have a mayor. Our first mayor was
Not Tom Southern.
Hank Oster. He was a Dutch immigrant, and he was, before he was mayor, before he retired, he was in the CIA. So he was an intel analyst for the CIA. Been all over.
So.
He's the one that helped us start a little incorporated
I
community.
didn't know anybody have any questions or anything that you're,
Yeah, any questions?
anything to ask the gentleman to talk?
If y'all have internet web capabilities, check us out online. We have Walkertown Area Historical Society.org.
Walkertown Area.
I've got brochures and business cards up here. Please take a brochure and business card. We're on Facebook. I update Facebook weekly.
Yeah, everybody's on Facebook.
So while I'm working on archives and artifacts and stuff like that, I like to post what we're doing. And we're on YouTube, and this video will probably be on YouTube as soon as
Is your meeting on a certain day of the month?
Yes, it's the second Tuesday of every other month.
Every other month?
But we've been fortunate to have one every month.
Put it in the papers.
We've had a lot of people seeking us out, wanting to be a presentation for our organization.
Oh.
We draw a pretty nice crowd.
Yeah. I have been there on one occasion. Mr. Riggs from up in Stokes County, he had talked about these places where the people go in the summertime.
Yes.
These houses, they were really fancy places to go.
Sulphur
You know what I'm
Springs.
talking about? The Springs.
Springs,
Yeah. I heard him speak on that. That's been a couple of years ago. But I appreciate it, and you're welcome. We're going to have some refreshments, and we will adjourn to the table over there.
Thank you.
Okay?
Tell me a little bit about the DA.
Oh, let's talk for a second. She knows it more than I know. Yeah, give my rundown.
I forwarded to something from my daughter. Good grief, Nicole. Checked it all.
I felt myself reading that every time. I'm pretty sure I say and more than I said anything else.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
Okay.
No, I can't take a picture.
We had to figure out what
I'm there.
Oh, okay. Jonathan, Betsy.
And I have searched, people have taken pictures.
Slideshow.
I took several.
Oh, you did? That's fine, don't worry.
Yeah, I forwarded the pictures in. Okay, so
Okay, come on down. Bring your conversation this way. I like the Walkertown Library, that room.
It's small, but,
It's nice.
yeah, very nice. Y'all gonna have that, you know, when you get your new library.
yeah, motion.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But I think, I was telling you, I didn't think
My printer, I've been having trouble with my printer.
so nice. I know, I live on Vance Road.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a font.
William used to be our librarian. Yeah. And, since then, Natalia has come in, we deal with directly with her.
Oh, yeah, she's a
Yes. Thank you.
You were talking about, very good.
And she has a